Gypsy Rose Blanchard was kept prisoner by her mother Dee Dee for 20 years. Then she and her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, took bloody revenge inside their Springfield, Missouri home. There was something about Gypsy and her mother that you couldn't help but love. A daughter who was stricken by cancer, muscular dystrophy, and a host of other diseases, but still smiling every chance she got, and a mother who was devoted to giving her daughter everything she ever wanted. For over 20 years, they were seemingly perfect picture of inspiration and hope. When Dee Dee was stabbed to death in her own home with her sickly daughter nowhere to be found, the community descended into chaos. There was no way the girl could survive on her own. Even worse, what if the person who killed Dee Dee had kidnapped Gypsy? A manhunt was ordered for her, and to everyone's delight, she was found just days later. But Gypsy Rose, that was found, was hardly the same girl who had gone missing. Rather than a thin, disabled cancer patient, the police found a strong young woman walking and eating on her own. Questions instantly arose about her beloved mother. How had Gypsy changed so rapidly overnight? Had she ever really been sick? And had she been involved in Dee Dee Blanchard's death? Gypsy was born on July 27, 1991, in Golden Meadow, Louisiana. Shortly before her birth, her mother Dee Dee and Rod had separated. Though Dee Dee described Rod as a deadbeat drug addict who had abandoned his daughter, Rod told a different story. According to him, he was only 17 years old when 24-year-old Dee Dee Blanchard became pregnant with Gypsy Rose. Though he initially wed Dee Dee after finding out she was pregnant, he soon realized that he got married for the wrong reasons. Despite separating from her, he remained in contact with her and Gypsy and regularly sent them money. From the beginning, Dee Dee portrayed herself as a model parent, a tireless single mum who would do anything for her child. She appeared to be convinced that there was something terribly wrong with her daughter. When Gypsy was an infant, Dee Dee brought her to the hospital, convinced she had sleep apnea. Though there was no sign of the disease, she remained convinced, eventually determining herself that Gypsy had an unspecified chromosomal disorder. From then on, she watched her daughter like a hawk, fearing disaster could strike at any moment. When Gypsy was around 8 years old, she fell off her grandfather's motorcycle. Dee Dee took her to the hospital where she was treated for a minor abrasion to her knee. She was unconvinced that her daughter was healed. She believed that Gypsy would need several surgeries if she ever hoped to walk again. Until then, she decided Gypsy would remain in a wheelchair as to not to aggravate her knee further. As Dee Dee's family questioned Gypsy's condition, she simply moved away from them to another town in Louisiana, which was closer to New Orleans. She found a run-down apartment and lived on the disability checks that she collected from Gypsy's supposed illness. After taking her to the hospital in New Orleans, Dee Dee claimed that on top of her chromosomal disorder and muscular dystrophy, her daughter now had problems with her vision and hearing. In addition, she claimed that Gypsy had begun to suffer from seizures. While medical tests showed no signs of any of these ailments, doctors nonetheless prescribed anti-seizure medication and generic pain medication for Gypsy. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina forced Dee Dee and Gypsy to move north to Aurora, Missouri. There, the two became minor celebrities, acting as champions for the rights of disabled people and the sick. Habitat for Humanity built a house that had a wheelchair ramp and a hot tub, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation sent them on trips to Disney and gave them backstage passes to Miranda Lambert concert. But it wasn't all fun and games. The press that Dee Dee and Gypsy received through various foundations attracted the attention of doctors nationwide. Before long, specialists were reaching out to her to see if there was anything they could do. One of these doctors, a pediatric neurologist from Springfield named Bernardo Flasterstein, offered to see Gypsy at his clinic. But while she was there, he discovered that not only did she not have muscular dystrophy, but she also didn't have any of the other diseases that Dee Dee claimed she had. He told Dee Dee that he couldn't see why she couldn't walk, but Dee Dee brushed him off. He began to make calls to doctors in New Orleans. Though Dee Dee claimed the hurricane had washed away all of Gypsy's records, Bernardo was able to find doctors whose records had survived. After talking to them and confirming once again that Gypsy was a healthy child, he began to suspect that Dee Dee was the one who was actually sick. It's since been suggested that Dee Dee had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a mental health disorder in which a caregiver creates fictitious illnesses for a person in their care. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Bernardo, Gypsy had also begun to suspect that there was something seriously wrong with her mother. In 2010, Dee Dee was telling everyone that Gypsy was 14, but she was actually 19 years old. By then, she knew she wasn't as sick as her mother claimed. She was also well aware that she could walk. And despite her minimal education, she didn't go to school at all past the 2nd grade. She had taught herself how to read thanks to the Harry Potter books. Gypsy had known for a while that something was off, and ever since then, she'd been attempting to escape from her mother. One night, she even showed up at her neighbour's door, standing on her own 2 feet, begging for a ride to a hospital. But Dee Dee quickly intervened and explained the whole thing away, a talent she had apparently perfected over the years. Any time Gypsy began to stray, become independent, or suggest that she was anything but an innocent child suffering from a deadly illness, Dee Dee would explain that Gypsy's mind was addled by disease. She'd say that she was mentally challenged, or that the drugs had made it impossible for her to know what she was talking about. Because of Dee Dee and Gypsy's lovable nature and their inspirational bond, people believed all the lies. But at this point, Gypsy was getting fed up. After the incident with the neighbour, Gypsy began using the internet when Dee Dee went to bed to meet men in online chat rooms. Though her mother chained her to her bed and threatened to smash her fingers with a hammer when she found out about her online activities, Gypsy continued to chat with the men, hoping one of them could save her. Finally, in 2012, when she was about 21 years old, she met 23-year-old Nicholas Godejohn from Wisconsin. Nicholas had a criminal record for indecent exposure and a history of mental illness, but that didn't dissuade Gypsy. A few months after meeting, Nicholas came to visit her, and while Dee Dee was on a rare solo outing, the two became intimate. After that, they began to plot the murder of her mother. Gypsy had been waiting for someone to save her, and Nicholas seemed just the person to do it. Through Facebook messages, the two planned the demise of Dee Dee. Nicholas would wait until she had gone to bed, and then Gypsy would let him in so he could kill her. One night in June 2015, it was done. While Dee Dee was sleeping in her bed, Nicholas stabbed her 17 times in the back, while Gypsy listened in another room. Shortly after Dee Dee died, the couple fled to Nicholas's house in Wisconsin, where they were arrested just days later. Though many initially believed that Gypsy had been kidnapped by the person who killed her mum, police quickly learned the truth thanks to the many clues that the couple had left behind. Most notably, Gypsy had posted bizarre messages on Dee Dee's Facebook page, one of them being "That bitch is dead," which authorities quickly traced to Nicholas's house. She later revealed that she had posted the messages because she wanted her mother's body to be discovered. Although she certainly didn't plan on being caught, her arrest eventually gave her the opportunity to finally share her real story with the world. And before long, the sympathy that had always followed Dee Dee shifted to Gypsy. Those who had expressed sadness over Dee Dee's death were now enraged that she could treat a child like that. Many were shocked to hear that Gypsy was in her 20s, as Dee Dee had significantly altered her appearance to make her look sicker and younger, shaving her hair ahead of leukemia treatments and apparently allowing her teeth to rot out. Psychiatrists eventually said that Gypsy was a victim of child abuse. Not only had Dee Dee forced Gypsy to fake illnesses, but she had also hit her, destroyed her personal property, restrained her to her bed, and sometimes even denied her food. Some experts later cited Munchausen syndrome by proxy as Dee Dee's behaviour route. But even though public opinion had shifted against Dee Dee, the issue of her murder still stood. Gypsy confessed that she had asked Nicholas to kill her mother in a desperate bid to escape her. Shortly thereafter, the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard would soon become a worldwide sensation for television shows. But as for Gypsy, she pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in 2016 and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Nicholas was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder. Gypsy served 7 years in prison before being eligible for parole, being released on 28 December 2023. Now 32 years old, she has been subjected to so much media attention and getting used to her new life. She has released a docuseries about her life, her partners, and even written a book.